Hey, fancy listeners. Francesca Hampton here, and I am honored that you took time to tune in once again. And I'm committed to sharing content that will make you glad you did. So, welcome to the Fancy Thoughts Podcast, a weekly podcast designed to give you perspective, insight, and encouragement to release the greatness inside of you. I want you to live fancy life, where you are fostering achievement, never compromising you, because someone is waiting for you. Before we get into this week's Fancy Thoughts, let's remind ourselves what we talked about last week. Last week we discussed continue to press, know your why. We talked about being able to go forward with energetic or determined effort. We talked about pressing in, pushing forward, advancing with force. But we said we wanted to do so in a way that pushes beyond motivation, that goes beyond inspiration, because we know our why. Knowing our why becomes our reason. It becomes our dedication. It becomes our determination to push past the moments where we don't want to push past the moments of distraction, to push past even the moments of disappointment. We have to continue to press and know our why. And so with that, let's get into this week's Fancy Thought. I'm really excited as I see these fancy thoughts building on one another as we speak each week. Each of these nuggets that I bring to you, I'm hoping are helping you to recognize, one, that there is greatness on the inside of you, and two, that there may be some areas we need to reflect on, we need to pay attention to, we may need to change our perspective about, so that we can indeed release that greatness. So with that, this week's thought is take a step one at a time. Again, take a step one at a time. I don't know about you, but I have had moments where I knew what I needed to do. I had everything I needed to get it done. And I knew what I wanted the outcome to be. But yet, in a singular moment, I felt so paralyzed with the overwhelming thought of all that needed to be done and the impact of what would be the end result that I couldn't move forward. I couldn't even take the first step, and I felt paralyzed. I experienced that this week, even stepping into some things that I needed to do. And again, I knew fully well what I needed to do, or at least what the next step was. And sure, there were going to be other things down the line that would need to be looked into or researched even more. But to get started, I knew exactly what I needed to do. But I allowed the overwhelming thought of everything at once to paralyze me. And I'm sure there are many of you that may be able to relate, whether it was a task that you needed to accomplish at work, whether it was something that you needed to do in the house to get a particular project completed, some renovations or some remodeling or even just spring cleaning, or maybe it is on a grander level where you are stepping out and releasing your business or releasing a service or doing something. And it just seems like, instead of doing something, I'd rather do nothing because there's so much to do. So that's why my statement to you today is take a step. Once I got over my moment, I realized all I had to do was start. All I had to do was get started. All I had to do was take one step at a time. And as I did that, then I would be able to continue to move forward. And sure enough, once I, again, let everything go and said, okay, if I can just do this, I'll be happy with the results of at least accomplishing that. It's not going to solve the whole thing. It's not going to do everything, but I will have made progress. And so once I sat down and calmed down and then just began to do that one thing, I accomplished more than I had been trying to do for a couple of days. Because in the days before, I was trying to do everything at one time. I was trying to recognize this over here, recognize that over here, do this, do a little bit here, do a little bit here. And I accomplished nothing. So that's why my statement to you, my encouragement to you is just take a step, but also one at a time. Because the other side of that is when we try to take a bunch of steps all at one time, as I mentioned, it can just become overwhelming and you actually don't accomplish anything. I was having a conversation with a very good friend of mine this week, and we were both kind of going through some of those moments like, I have so much to do, and I just feel like I'm not really getting anywhere. And we were both like, but if we actually just focused on one thing at a time, all of the time that we spent talking about how much we needed to do, we would have actually been able to do at least one thing. So that's my encouragement to you. Don't try to, as they say, don't try to boil the ocean, right? Take a small pot of water and boil just that, right? Take one of the many tasks that are in your to-do list and accomplish that one. It gives you such a sense of accomplishment when you can check things off. Many times, especially we as women who are multitaskers and who are multifaceted in all of the many different things that we do, we put our hands in a lot of different things, and all things that we may be well qualified to be able to accomplish, all things that we may be well qualified to complete, but we cannot complete everything at one time. But if we in our minds can recognize that we can be much more successful and much more productive if we actually take on one task at a time, I think the amount of success that we would see in the end would be overwhelmingly enjoyable. Now, I want to take a look at a definition of the word step. And it's interesting because, of course, we're like, yeah, take a step, do something. But listen to this. In my favorite dictionary, the Collins Dictionary, step is defined as one of a sequence of separate consecutive stages in the progression towards some goal. First of all, I just love that definition, so I'm going to say it again. One of a sequence of separate consecutive stages in the progression towards some goal. What that means is you are doing something in sequence, one after another, in separate consecutive stages, right? So in this stage, you may work on one thing. In the next stage, you may work on something else, but they build on one another. And they are all towards the progression of a goal or towards a goal, right? So let's put that back into the scenario that I gave you earlier about trying to do this, mound, it seemed, of tasks, right? So what I needed to do was first take a step. I needed to do a sequence of separate things. I needed to write some things out. So for me, if I can write it all out and determine the stages of the things that I need to do, it'll help me to figure out where I should prioritize, what I should do first, what needs the most attention. So what I did was I first did a listing of all of the things that I needed to review, that I might need to modify, that I needed to evaluate. And I put certain indicators in that to help me, make those decisions. And so now the next thing is to build off of that. So the next consecutive stage is, okay, I'm going to prioritize those different things in a particular order so that I know which one to focus on first, right? And all of this is helping me to get to my end goal. All of it. And when I look at it in that way, I see it more so as building upon each other, building blocks one after the other, instead of trying to take all of it and do it all at the same time. Another definition is, this is in the Merriam-Webster dictionary for step. It is defined as an action, proceeding, or measure often occurring as one in a series. So again, the idea and the reason I'm breaking this down is because if we can change our mindset from the idea that everything has to be done at once to instead the idea that we do one thing at a time, recognizing that each one builds on another, and that by doing these and continuing to move forward, we will reach our goal. We will progress towards our goal. That can truly help remove some of the pressure to do everything. It can remove at times the paralysis that we may experience when we're trying to do it all. And it places us in a position where we can do a simple, achievable, tangible step that will help us to move forward. Here's another example. I was telling you that I started working out. Now, if I was to say, all right, I'm going to work on every part of my body every single day, all the time, and I'm going to do so with the expectation that I'm going to reach my beach body by XYZ date, right? Now, of course, there are some programs that tell you that you can absolutely do that. And for me, that would seem overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do everything all the time, one on top of another. And that's how I'm going to reach my beach body. Now, funny statement. I saw a post one day and it says, how to have a beach body. Take your body, go to the beach. And I love that because, sometimes just as we're talking about weight and we're talking about, health and how you look, so many times we can often allow society, social media, television, all these different types of external factors to tell us what we should look like, what is acceptable in our own body, what does beauty look like to us. And hear me today tell you, beauty looks like you being happy with who you are. No one else has the authority nor the right to tell you how you look beautiful or what beautiful looks like on you. Now, of course, you can receive a compliment and you can accept that, right? But you shouldn't be striving for compliments from someone else to determine or validate your own self-awareness of how beautiful you are. And that's something that we as women, especially, and sometimes men also struggle with. It's what is the determination? What is the parameter? What is the bar? What is the measuring stick that says I'm in my perfect body? But the reality is the only one that can determine that is you, because nobody else has the right to say so. So anyway, forgive my soapbox, but I hope that if that is something that you are struggling with, if that's something that you have been dealing with and have been trying to work on, I'm encouraging you today to not allow that determination to be determined by anyone else but you. Look in the mirror and find the things that you can be excited about. Look in the mirror and find the things that you can be proud of. Look in the mirror and find and see all the beauty that went into creating you, because God made no mistake when he created you. And perhaps you've went and allowed your body to kind of get out of its normal or usual, I will say, state, right? Maybe you've gained a little bit of weight. Maybe you've lost a little bit of muscle. Maybe something has happened. But everything that you need to be who you want to be is on the inside of you. If you're not happy about something in your body, you make a decision to change it. But you set your measure of when you've reached success based on you and no one else. So anyway, as I was talking about, again, taking a step one at a time. I've started working out. I told you that in the past couple of podcasts, right? And there were days, not even too many days ago, where I was getting discouraged because I was looking at my body and I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see, right? And I was saying, but I'm doing this, but I'm doing this. Well, it didn't take me 2 days to gain the weight that I'm trying to get off of my body. It didn't take me 1 week to not have the muscle definition that I'm looking for. This happened over a period of time. So the idea that I could gain this muscle definition and lose this weight in a short period of time is putting pressure on myself that is unnecessary. I can still look at myself in the mirror and be happy with what I see. Yes, there are some areas that I want to work on. There's some areas that I want to perfect. But in and of itself, I am beautiful. And I don't say that to be cocky or arrogant. I say that to be confident and sure of who I am. I am beautiful. Every single day when I look in the mirror, I can find something to see in the mirror that I can say, you're beautiful. But the point of all of this is just recognizing that for me in this state, in order to get to the place that I determine I want to be, I have to be willing to take a step, and I have to do it one at a time. That means I get up every day and I work out. That means that I'm not pushing myself further than my body can actually handle because I'm trying to reach something that's not obtainable. Nor am I sitting beside and being lazy, expecting to reach results or to achieve results. I'm taking a step and I'm doing it one at a time. Wherever you are, in whatever it is that you have been called to release, whether it's coaching, whether it's business, whether it's a book, whether it's a service, whether it's simply your time and attention, whether it's your processing, the way that you process things, whether it's your way to break things down, whether it's the way that you cook, whether it's the way that you nurture, whether it's the way that you repair things, fix things, build things, whatever it is that is in you that needs to be released, I'm encouraging you, take a step one at a time. What is the next step that you can take that will help someone else to be aware of what you have to offer? Remember, we talked about a few episodes ago about self-promotion and understanding that there is nothing wrong with letting other people know that you have something to offer that would benefit them. How do you do that? What is the next step that you need to take? Now let's make this practical. How do I do that? Okay, I understand. I need to take a step. I need to do it one at a time. What's my first step? Write it down. There's a scripture in the Bible in Habakkuk 2:2, and it says, write the vision and make it plain, so that he that readeth it may run with it. The most important person that needs to run with the vision is you. But how are you going to run with it if it just stays in your head? Sometimes we don't put things on paper because when you do, it makes it real. It makes it concrete. It means that you have to do something about it. Well, good. Write it down because you do need to do something about it. The time has passed to let it just sit by the wayside. Today is the day to take a step. And your first step is writing it down. You say, okay, I've already written it down. All right, now that you've written down the vision of what you want to accomplish, let's take some tangible steps that we can do to make that vision come to pass. What is a realistic, tangible step that you can take today that will allow you to get one step closer to your end goal? Ultimately, I want you to remember, all you have to do is take one step. And take one at a time. Thank you for joining us for the Fancy Thoughts podcast. I'm Francesca Hampton, and I look forward to you tuning in again next week. And remember, you are well able, fully capable, and properly equipped to accomplish everything you were created for. So go and make this week a great one.